your host of Keeping It Real on Purpose. And today we have a guest who is going to be part of the series that we have talking, real talk with life coaches featuring Daniela. See, I'm messing it up. Daniela Wolfe. And I'm so excited because she's from Buffalo, New York. I finally meet somebody who's from New York and from an area that I know. And Daniela helps entrepreneurs and businesses set themselves up for success by overcoming stress and burnout, which we all know that we get to the place of. She also helps with productivity and managing their daily tasks. She helps erase that stress around that because you know how we get involved with that, but also having the time, which everybody talks about, no time, and energy for the self care every day. She has been at LMSW for 27 years, focused on self care, stress management skills, mindfulness, relationships, parenting, and managing all the chaos of life. Her mission is to empower you to prioritize yourself on your to-do list and learn the strategies to make over your daily life. I like that. Thank you for being here today, Daniela.
Thanks so much, Edna, for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us about the 27 years being at LMSW, what that felt like, and what it feels like now.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot over the years. I work specifically with high school students.
Okay.
Um, so I was with court ordered kids prior to that, but the last 25 have been with high school students, and definitely I see an impact on our coping skills, our resiliency, a lot of anxiety, things like that. Between COVID and just the increase in technology, it's definitely had an impact on it. And it's even shaped part of my coaching, even though they're separate. I work obviously with adults with my coaching and things like that. I think a lot of those same skills, though, are part of what contribute to our burnout, that keep us from
Gotcha.
taking care of ourselves. And so, it's definitely been intertwined as well as part of my own journey. When I first started, I was a single mom. I had two little kids, 4 and 6 months old. And even though I'd been a social worker for, gosh, like 6 or 7 years at that point, I wasn't necessarily using those same skills on
Right.
myself. And, I just see the benefits of, you don't have to be in counseling. You don't have to have therapy in order to still need the benefits of just prioritizing your own emotional well-being, or what I like to call mental fitness.
Wow. You talk about the new introduction with the young people with the electronic devices. Tell us how that relates to burnout for the children.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, when I talk about the things that you need in order to prevent burnout,
Yes.
it kind of puts some barrier in places, because one of those is our connections to others. And
Right.
a lot of times people are more tied to their phones. That's where they're socializing, that's where they're connecting with others, but it's
Okay.
not necessarily the same as in person, or they use
Right.
it as an escape to avoid connecting with others in person. It
Right.
kind of takes away those conversations. It takes
Right.
away those connections that we have.
Right. And that is a type of burnout for children.
It can be. It can be if you don't have, other areas of your life besides just that technology. I mean, it's not, like I said, that's a little bit separate from my business. When it
Right.
comes
Right.
to burnout, it is a factor, though, those skills that we learn when we're younger.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
my own kids, they saw when I prioritized my well-being, it wasn't just in one area. Your
Right.
own mental fitness, your well-being comes from a variety of areas, not just how you connect with others, but how you sleep, how you eat, how you move,
Right. Right.
how
Right.
you dress, how you decorate and organize your home, how you think about
Right.
money. And if you are kind of only focused in one area, so if that's your only outlet,
Right.
you don't have any other hobbies, any other interests, any other ways that you take
Right.
care of yourself, that can definitely set yourself up for burnout.
Yeah. I know as when I was raising my children, there were no phones. There was only this little game called Tetris.
Yeah.
And but my kids, I raised them like I was. My mom threw us outside, come back before the lights get on, the night lights get on, come back running, beating the sidewalk lights on, that kind of thing. And they were very adventurous. They had hobbies. My youngest son, who's 34, he actually just started taking up fishing, and he found out he loved it. Like, and now he's like, him and his bestie are going like every week now. And but I find, like, with my grandchildren, especially my 16-year-old, he's not really interested in going out, like going out, and he has one friend, and they kind of communicate through um, the phone. But I'm just wondering how can we, transition, because I'm sure it's not about the expertise of it, but it we need to, like, to start talking about how do we get our children out of this this
Mhm.
line of, I guess, habit, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And
You know,
definitely it's a bigger lifestyle kind of thing. It's not
yeah.
about just, the phones necessarily aren't them in and of themselves bad.
Right,
It's
right,
looking at the bigger picture of, number one, what are we doing? Because they do what we do,
right.
not what we say.
Okay.
um,
Right,
you know, how are we showing up? What are we showing them? A lot of
right.
times, especially as moms, we think our kids need to be our entire world. And so we give up our activities and our hobbies and our free time, and they
That
see
is so
that,
good.
you
Yes,
know, and it's
yes.
interesting when I started, like I said, on my own journey and taking care of myself, my kids were like, wait a minute, you know how to golf? You know how to knit? I'm like, yes, I did things before kids. And it really helped them to see, like, you don't have to necessarily.
Yes.
I'm not a pro player. I'm not
Yeah,
great. But you can
exactly.
do activities that you're not good at, because I think that's the other thing. We
Yeah.
shy away from anything we're not perfect at,
Right.
versus
Right.
just doing them because they're fun,
Yeah.
because I'm silly at it, because I'm not
Yeah.
good at it, but I enjoy being with my friends.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so important to share that. And it would just, that opened up a big segue to this, because that's important. Women, we do give up, our lives. And then when I started doing, I started traveling. My son turned 23, my youngest son.
Mhm.
I took a job in China, and they were like,
Wow.
you can teach?
Mhm.
You do these things, and they didn't believe I was leaving to the last minute. My daughter knew. She was like, mom's leaving. Mom's leaving, right? And they were like, yeah, nah, yeah, nah. When I did, it was shocking to them. The neighbors even came out like, you're leaving? So it's
Yeah.
it's sort of like a shock, but it then opened up the idea to them, I can do anything I want,
Mhm.
even in a late stage in your life. Hey, I can go here, I can travel here, I can do this, I can do that. Then when I started writing, they were like, you can write books? Yeah. And it
Mhm.
was like, then they were like, is there anything that mom can't do? And I was like, no, there's nothing you can't do either. You can do anything. And it just burst this new creativity, although it was kind of late. um
But
it
it's
burst
never too
new
late to start.
creativity in them, in their 20s, and now in their 30s and 40s. Now they are, what I'm saying. So now it's kind of opening up new avenues that they can do, possibly anything at any age. So
Yeah.
it's important, like you're saying, and I know that you talk to women and children. It's important to don't lose that. Now, how do we get to the point that we don't lose that? Talk to the
Mhm.
audience about that. How, while we're raising children, how do we lose that?
I mean, there's no one way, and it's not
Yes.
necessarily going to look the same as when you didn't have kids or when you were in your
Mhm.
teens or 20s or things like that. But I think continuing to prioritize yourself and your well being is going to help you to be successful as a parent, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, as a partner. Because a lot of times we think, burnout comes from the things we don't like, but
Yeah.
actually the things we're passionate about that we go all in on, like our kids, like our businesses, that can set us up for burnout because we get rid of our boundaries. And
Right.
I remember
That's
talking
good.
to a mom. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you're my first adult conversation in 2 days," because
That's really
she
good.
was just
That's really
all
good.
in on her kids.
Hmm.
and it's the same with our businesses. And we ride those highs and lows more intensely because these are the things we love and we're
Right.
passionate about. We spend all our time in it. And so making sure you have those boundaries in place, even around the things you love,
Yeah.
is going to help you maintain that balance and prevent that burnout in those areas
Right.
because you're not losing yourself. You haven't lost you in
That's
that
great. That's
process.
great.
That's just another part.
That's great. And I talked to someone yesterday about, when I was part of the PTA and running the kids around to basketball, this and that, I didn't lose my friendships
Hmm.
because my ex-husband now, he didn't lose his friendships. He was like, okay, I'm going out while I have the kids. And I'm like, so I learned early, hey, if he's not, and I think I did it in a malicious state, but still,
Out of
I
spite.
learned, hey, I need to have friends too, because I was walking around with, I was I'm the eldest in my family. So when my sisters started getting jobs, my nephews came to me because I was home with my son, when I had him. So I was the babysitter. So I was talking baby talk, you know, all
Yeah.
day, baby talk and, children talk and patience. And, I was doing all the parenting stuff. Even when I was talking to my friends, I cut that out. So I had to even learn how to cut that off, like stop that. I'm talking to an adult right now,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge to have that balance, but you so need it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you don't prioritize your well being, you're going to kind of unfortunately prioritize your illness. So you need to put
Ooh,
your,
that's
you
good.
know, take care of yourself
Ooh, that's good.
so that you can take care of everybody else. It's the cliche airline thing, you put your own mask on first before you put on
Yes.
all those kind of things. But it really does make a huge difference as far
It
as how
does.
you show up. When I was burnout, I was irritable. I was snapping at my kids. That wasn't who I was, who I wanted them to
Right.
remember
Right.
growing up. And so you really do show up differently when you take care of yourself, as
That's
well as
correct.
you show and model for people
Right.
how to take care of themselves and how to treat you. That I'm
Right.
a person, I'm a priority,
Right.
my time is
Right.
important and valuable. You
Right.
teach all those things, like I said, to your colleagues, your boss, your coworkers, your family,
Absolutely.
when you do those things.
Absolutely. And you are 100% right. I just told one of my friends this yesterday because her family just gets on you, and something happened with her mom. And so everybody's blaming her, blaming her, blaming her. And I was like, did you stand up for yourself? Because it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's life. It's not your fault. And I said, she even thought about at 70 something going back to work. I was like, are you kidding? you know, and it gets and I said, what, I think you're burnt out. She
Hmm.
goes, what? You think that? I said, I think being a caregiver to everybody means literally taking on their stuff. I said, you're taking on other people's stuff. Even
Yeah.
though they're not with you physically, you still could take on their stuff, listen to their stuff, give
Mhm.
them help and support, and you're not supporting yourself. Well, I told her, I said, what happens if you're not here?
Yeah.
you know they're still going to support themselves. You're going to have to say, back off right now, I can't handle that. And
Yeah.
that's especially if they're adults.
Yeah.
If they're adults, it's
Fatigue.
time to handle your own business, back
Hmm.
up. And that's part of self-care. Self-care does not mean that you have to be soft and pliable and walked on. It doesn't mean that. It means
Hmm.
sometimes stepping up and being that shield for yourself and saying no.
Right. No, boundaries is one of my favorite B words because I
Yes.
think, it gets a bad rap as being a bad negative thing, but boundaries
No, it's
are actually
not.
so freeing for you and everybody else
Yes.
around you.
Yes.
'Cause like what you were talking about with your girlfriend, that compassion fatigue,
Yeah.
that secondary trauma of going through an event with somebody, you get those same,
Yes.
fortunately, negative effects of what they're going through. And so
Yes.
you
It's so
need to
important.
take care of
Yes.
yourself and
Right.
set
Right.
those boundaries. Like, I can do this from 9 to 5, but from 5 on, that's my time. I'm taking
Yes.
care of me. I'm having fun with
Yes.
my friends. I'm,
Yes.
whatever it looks like for you, because there is no one way. There's
Yes.
so
No
many
one
different
would. No.
options. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
a lot of time, but
Exactly.
it's
That's
imperative.
exactly right. When I used to work for in the the field of healthcare, and I used
Mhm.
to come home, and I was a supervisor for a couple of houses, and I would tell the kids, we'd sit down right before I got accepted the position, and I said, this is what this means, that when mommy comes home, I have to take off the clothes because I'm in the
Yep.
healthcare field, so I want to get time to take off the dirty clothes, right? Because I know you
Mhm.
want to jump on, you want to talk about today, da da da. Give me about 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and then let mommy go in the room by herself, and just give me 30 minutes, and they allowed for that, and then every day I would come in the door, they would like see me, mom, then they would stop themselves, and then I was like, let me take off my dirty clothes, and then let me give you 30 minutes, and I
Yeah.
would literally just debrief,
Yeah.
breathe, just keep breathing, 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 and sit in one spot. Shower was my favorite place because I was like, the water did kind of like revived me all the time,
Does.
but it was my 30 minutes to debrief from the day and then take on what they were talking about. Then I could ask, well, how was your day? What did you do? And I had each one of my children were 4 years apart. So I had a 12-year-old at the time, and a 9-year-old, I had, and then a 6-year-old. So I was like, and then I had my nephews. So it was like, they were all different age ranges. So I had to really, you know, be able to debrief, and just 30 minutes
But I
is
love what you
good.
just did too. You shared, you communicated it. And I think that's the part with boundaries where people get messed up. They put them in place and
Mhm.
then they don't communicate them as clearly as
Right,
you did, which was
right,
awesome. And then they wonder why people are walking on them, people are not respecting them,
right,
people, and
right,
then they get resentful
right,
when, they're like, I need time, but they didn't communicate it. And I
right,
love that you showed the example of, by clearly communicating your
right.
boundaries. Nobody was upset or mad at you. They already knew mama
Yeah,
needs 30 minutes before
yes.
we're going to talk to her.
Yep, exactly.
End of story.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that even went towards like where I worked. It's like, okay, the weekends are for my kids. I used to do that, even when I transitioned to having my own office as a real estate agent. I was like, listen, I'm not working on weekends. The weekends are my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So because I need time with them and I need to have balance, and that's why I work till this day. People ask me, can you meet me on the and a lot of times, I'm gonna tell you, when you put up those boundaries and you go outside your boundaries, it doesn't work out. Somebody either forgets or the appointment doesn't happen, and then you're like, okay, I got you, universe. I agreed to this, and this is how it's gonna work for the rest of time. You know what I mean? So now I take that time. I remember when applying for a job, and they asked me, what hours would you want to work? I said, well, nothing after 10, nothing before 10. They looked at me, what? I said, no, I got to meditate and I got to exercise. Those are top priority in my life. And I can't do that while I'm here. So,
Mm-hmm.
and guess what? It was granted, but you're setting the boundaries when you have this conversation, you know, you're setting even at work, you know, talking to just the talking into the workplace. We think that we don't have priorities there. Talk about how you can set priorities in your workplace, because you can, you really can.
It doesn't always have to be a hard boundary or a hard no. Setting
Right.
yourself as a priority in your workplace is
Yes.
absolutely possible just by looking at the different ways you're going to choose to integrate your own self care. And so the
Yeah.
ways that you do that, definitely kind of knowing yourself, knowing how you want to fit it in. Like, silly example, like when I go to the restroom at work, I do a couple laps up and down the stairs. So I'm fitting in movement throughout my
Uh-huh.
day. A priority to me is to always have some movement. So I might go for a walk on my lunch hour if it's nice. I'm going to fit some movement in. Having
Yeah.
those connections, like making sure before we talk work, I want to catch up with you personally. I want to
Right.
maintain those
Exactly.
connections for a couple minutes. Um, making sure I get a good night's sleep even is how I set myself as a priority when I come to work. Because if I don't get a good night's sleep, nobody's going to be happy, kind of
Yeah.
thing. It
Totally
affects me.
agree.
I don't eat great if I don't sleep well. I go for carbs, so I pre-pack my lunches. So my meal planning is again
Yes.
priority, making me a priority during my work day so that I'm
Hmm.
not just grabbing something on the fly that doesn't make me feel good. So
Yes.
there's so many ways you can, even without changing your actual work and your job and things like that,
Right.
still make
Right.
yourself a priority through your workday and set some boundaries in place so that, I'm taking my lunch hour. I'm not going to
Right.
be on a work lunch. I'm not going to be
Right.
talking about work. I'm
Right.
going to maybe leave my
Right.
desk. Those little shifts. And that's the thing with self-care and preventing burnout. It's those micro moments that make a
Yes.
massive
It
difference
really is.
in your day. It's not,
Yeah.
I am, not doing all these things. It's not a lot of knots, but it's a
Yeah.
lot you are going to do that's going
Yes.
to help prevent that
Right.
burnout and really help you, help everybody else around you.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I applied all of those that you said.
Mhm.
I had applied them, during where I worked, and it saved me from burnout. It really saved me for inter-office burnout because it was, you know, um, I wanted to talk to you about how to set the boundaries. So we know that we're at work almost more than we are at home. If
Yeah,
we have to
we
go out
really.
to the office,
Mhm.
how do we, I've heard the statement, people at work can't be your friends, but my thought is you can be friendly to them, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But you have to be, because that just it doesn't compute that you're spending this much time with somebody and don't know them, and you have these kind of conversations which are personal. How do
Mhm.
you set boundary, right, between being friendly with them and then all of a sudden having to be on a team and be able to disagree with them
Mhm.
on what is necessary? How do you talk to our audience about doing that?
I mean, a lot of that is just communication. Some of it,
Right.
it's choosing what you do communicate with them. Not
Hmm.
people can be close to you and not need to know everything that's private. There's a difference between being personal and being private. And so you
Yes.
can still be very private, but not necessarily impersonal with your
Right.
coworkers. It's like a
Awesome.
different kind of family, your
Yes.
friends, your family, because they do
Absolutely.
still go through different ups and downs, but you don't have to disclose everything. You can, how you choose to communicate with them as well, in
Hmm.
a respectful way, allows you to have those kind of friendly disagreements or
Right.
agree to disagree. Being able to communicate in a way that is always respectful and
Yeah.
kind and just
Right.
even open, having kind of a growth mindset when it comes to difficult conversations, as
Hmm.
far as at least being able to put yourself in the person's shoes, even if you don't agree with them, can help that conversation go a lot further, other than, rather than a hard, nope, this is how it is, end of
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So in general, our boundaries, when they have that kind of open fluidness to them, not that they're wishy-washy and not in a good place, but that at least they're open to seeing other sides, open to curiosity, rather
Hmm.
than just have coming in with one frame of mind.
Yes. Okay. So is that different than the modality of working with a say a supervisor or a higher supervisor? Can you be friendly with them as well as
Mhm.
working with them?
Yeah.
Is
I
that the
mean, like I
same?
said, there's a difference between being friendly and,
Yes.
letting people in on your deepest, darkest secrets. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
actually we could be friendly with everybody.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, we can. We can.
it's
We
about
can.
collaborating. It's creating your network, because
Right.
whether it's somebody above
Right.
you or somebody,
Right.
in a different lower position than you, we're all kind of working collaboratively, whether we
Right.
realize it or not. We're
Right.
all part of the same team at
Right.
work and our families, all those kind of things. Just
Right.
like you say with your kids, you can't be friends with your kids, but you can be friendly to
Oh,
them.
yeah, you can be friendly with
you
them.
know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do agree. That's a great point to bring up because another fallacy we're getting rid of today, audience, is, being friends with your children, but you can be friendly with them.
Well, because once they become
Meaning and putting
adults,
yourself in
you
their
don't
shoes and remembering what you went through,
Mhm.
can be so empowering for you and the child,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Because then, there's a place where, like I said, we've all both have adult kids, and so they are more of friends. We're going to talk to them again.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
private about some things when
Right.
it comes to them, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have fun and laugh and go out,
Exactly.
that type of thing.
Yes. And of course, I'm going to tell you some don'ts. Don't share any. Sharing relationship information with your children, not a great idea.
Hmm.
Having arguments is not a great idea, especially they're if they're one sided or disagreements. Yes, but to share that with them puts him in a precarious state, because I know I was in the, like, I was always like deciding who do I be on the side of. And that's when I remember that as I was raising my children, I would never want them to be on whose side am I really on. And that's a lot, brings out burnout, because if you're doing this all the time trying to figure out, you burn yourself out, then there's depression that sets up for our children, and or anyone that we're caring for. We don't want that to happen. We want to be friendly. That's what we want to do, and we want to remember, where what went on with us, and
Yeah.
and
We want
how
to
it
treat
supported
people
us.
the way we want to be treated. And so
Right.
across our jobs, at our businesses, things like
Yep.
that,
Right.
that's going to be that brand. Even if
Right.
you're not a personal business, you still have a
Yes.
brand you put forward as far as how
Absolutely.
they're
Absolutely.
approachable, that you're
Absolutely.
fun, that you're a problem solver, that you're a team player, that you're a collaborator,
Yes.
all those kind of
Yes.
things you can embody in every aspect of your life.
That's beautiful. Daniela, that is beautiful. You can take that leadership style. What you just said, that is beautiful. Is how you should be out through your life. And it's consistency, it's
Mhm.
knowing who you are, but also taking care of yourself, and know that enough to know I have to set these boundaries here, so it applies to everybody else. It
Right.
applies to everybody else, and that's how you gain respect for everyone, and for yourself. Once you have it for yourself, you have it for everyone else.
Right.
Yeah. So what is coming up on the horizon for you, Daniela?
Um, so later this fall, I actually have a book coming out. Um,
Woo!
Still between two titles, so I'm not going to necessarily pick one at the moment.
Yes.
It has to do with your burnout prevention, finding work-life balance,
Okay.
mental fitness, and in it, I lay out my signature formula, the Exhausted to Empower formula. And so
Yes.
it's kind of like your own personal masterclass, step-by-step guide to help
Oh,
you on
nice.
the journey to burnout prevention. So keep an eye for
Nice.
that later this fall.
Oh, awesome. Well, that is stupendous. I thank you for this conversation, because it opened up so many avenues. And I know that the audience is popping with questions. And audience, remember, if you're listening to this on the audio, you can click the button and leave a question or a comment, and I'll get it right over to Daniela. If you are watching on YouTube, leave your comments below, because we love to hear from you. We love to hear your insight. And I'm going to say right now, this is the end of our show. I'm Edna White, your esteemed host, and my esteemed guest, Daniela Wolfe, saying goodbye for now.
Bye.